Everyone has completed the entry ticket, correct? Okay, screens are down. Okay, make sure your screens are down. All right, today in class, we are attempting to answer this question up here on the board. How can we use Google Form spreadsheet data to understand secondary students' feelings about belonging and othering? All right, so what we're going to be doing today is sort of practicing and also training ourselves on how to make meaning out of the data that's collected using Google Forms or using a collection service. It could be some other application. All right, taking a look at the data that we receive, all right, and then trying to come to some conclusions by asking questions and then creating charts that help present the answers to that question. All right, so last week we started, if you remember, with this exercise, and since providing this lesson to you, I've learned that we will be postponing our high school stream presentation, much like today's middle school stream presentation, another week, okay, just because next week is Halloween. All right, so we're going to do a Halloween assembly next Tuesday, so our assembly will be the following Tuesday. So we have a little bit more time, which gives us a little bit more time to prepare, to think about the lessons and the different learnings that we've been able to come to through our Look, Listen, Learn. But again, part of our next stage is asking questions. And what comes after asking questions? So you look, listen, learn, you ask questions. What happens after that? Huh?
Understand.
You understand, then you navigate, then you create, and then you highlight and fix, right? Yes.
I think that before I got for the assembly that works.
Yeah, I think, well, we'll find out. We'll see what we can do and arrange as necessary. But nonetheless, we will get into those details more next week. This week is all about learning, seeing what we can understand from asking questions about our Look, Listen, Learn, which is when you come into class or when you experience digital use and when we submitted those forms. Those are all Look, Listen, Learn. Now we're asking questions about that, and then we're going to come to some understandings about ourselves as students and also digital users, okay, both here at school and at home. All right, so what we have on this, obviously here, we're going to look through the training exercise I give you today. If you get that done, then you can go back to what we started last week, which is this assignment. Now, this was in your groups. We'll continue working in those groups, but we're going to take a step back. I think we can go through this exercise I've prepared for you today, and after we do that, we'll be able to do this much better, okay? So we're just going to step back a little bit and take a look at some of the main details. Now, last class on this exercise, can anybody explain to me or remember the terms that we did a pre-assessment on? Some of the terms that we did a pre-assessment on last week before we did this, yes? Okay, we looked at functions, yeah? Okay, maximum, mean, well, mean would be part of a aggregate data, yeah? Okay, minimum? Average, sum? What else? What other terms did you see floated around if you remember? Yes. Count, yeah. Yeah. Pivot table. Okay, pivot table, but what else? Yes. Charts, all right. We talked about, yes. Variables. What's a very important part of the data analysis process? It's a variable, but what is it called? Well, a cell contains a value, right? And that cell is the intersection between a column and a row, and it has a value, and that value can be used as a variable at times, and that variable could be just a variable that goes into the numbers, but it could be also what? Variables can be obviously numerical values, but they can also be words and so forth. But we can use them to create categories. What do we call this variable? Does anybody remember? Grouping variables. So today, we'll be working with these terms and in a functional sense, meaning that we're going to be creating some meaning from our entries into class for the last 4 weeks, or from week 4 to week 9. Okay, so let me show you that real quick. So this will come back to this. If you finish today's exercise, you can go back to this and start playing around. But if I go back to the assignment, I'm going to release this assignment to you momentarily. All eyes up here on the screen. And you can see I haven't released it yet, but I will. There's 2 attachments to this assignment. One is just a general copy, and then one will be a copy for each student. So much like last class, I gave you a copy of a spreadsheet of data. This is another copy. Okay, so I'll show you that in a moment. First things first is the assignment. So if you take a look at the assignment here, basically, you're going to be accessing your spreadsheet, which is your copy here. All right, so this is sort of like your playground. All right, if I were going to give it a term. So this is your data playground. From this playground, you're going to create 3 types of visuals. Okay, now each visual should be this. Okay, now I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is what you're trying to do. So there'll be a grouping variables bar graph that answers this blue question. There'll be a grouping variables bar graph that answers this question in blue. And then there'll be a count a pie style chart that provides an answer to this question here. Now, how do you get to the functional understanding and knowledge of getting these charts? Well, let me show you here. We have a series, episodic series, 5 episodes I've created. Each video is about average of 5 to 6 minutes. Some are a little less, some are a little bit more. But basically, if you watch these videos and do the things that I do in those videos, you will be able to have these things created, these graphs created on your spreadsheet. Okay, so basically you're making your data here look similar to the data that I do. Okay, the process. All right, so the process is simply to follow along in episodic order, episode 1 all the way through episode 5. You go through those steps, and if you do them right, you'll have that. Now, through this process, you can use the same process for our digital use personal inventory data, which is really what we want to get. But right now, you're going to be making sense of all that data that we've collected upon your entry into class. All right, so down here, you can see we have a lot of data, about 550 entries. Yeah, at least Mr. Luke's amazed by it. Okay, so, and obviously our data provides a rating on a Likert scale of feeling most belonging to most othered, and obviously we have that meaning embedded with our numbers. Okay, so we can make some conclusions from the data that we're investigating. Okay, so a lot of independent work, but I think you can work through it. One or two kids in grade 9 finished this, and they only had about 40 minutes. So I think some of you might be able to finish it today in class. When you do, just hit turn in. Okay, you don't have to do much else. You don't have to, the only thing you're working on is this spreadsheet here. This, just work, understand the directions and work in episodic order here. Okay? Any questions? All right, so where do you find the information on how to create these data visuals? Google Classroom, but where? What's going to tell you how to do this?
Right.
Yeah.
The video.
The videos, right? The first 2 videos is more about concepts and understandings and knowing how to work the spreadsheets. The final 3 videos will be where you can learn those tasks and skills for the charts. Okay? Okay, the rest of the time is yours to work. If you have headphones, please use those. If you finish number 1, you can go back to number 2 and think about that along with your group.